Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be here today with the brilliant Emma. Emma, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Emma. I am an advocate and a campaigner who's using my lived experience of addiction, liver disease, and organ donation, plus recovery, actually, to try and challenge the stigma and change systems within society. And hopefully, I'll continue to work with health services and charities to make sure that compassion really becomes embedded into part of the care system. My relationship with alcohol, I think, is like many people's, really. It starts off very normally. It was part of celebrations, commiserations, being part of student life and just meeting new friends. But it also became part of a way to deal with like coping with stress, winding down after a long day at work, or part of networking events, really, within kind of my employment. So on the outside, my relationship with alcohol was everything looked fine. But slowly kind of alcohol changed its role within me, I suppose. It shifted from something that I enjoyed to something that I relied on. So I really like to highlight the point that addiction didn't just arrive suddenly in my life. It definitely crept in quietly. And by the time I realized I was in trouble, I was already very deep in it. And by that point, it was a case of reaching out for help that wasn't necessarily easy to find. Yeah, so I'd say initially during the first stages of addiction, I suppose, like I mentioned, I was very much given medication and leaflets and very much told to reach out for help if I needed. But very few people were asking the reason why I was drinking. No one asked me about the trauma or the loss or the shame or the fear that I was going through. But it
Mm,
was very much medicating the problem rather than trying to understand the problem. Um, but that really didn't help in the process of trying to reach out. I just felt very kind of misunderstood, not listened to, and again, that judgment that comes with reaching out and saying that actually not everything is okay and I really do need help.
mm,
By that point, it really was crisis point for me. The difference when the care is done right is incredible. It's life-saving. One of the things I'll never forget is when I was actually in hospital and had been told, that the likelihood of me surviving was very, very minimal. A lady approached me at my bedside and literally came in just to have a chat
mm,
and sat down next to my bedside, spoke to me using my name, which sounds obvious, but when you're in hospital, you're either a bed number or you're a patient number. So spoke to me using my name, sat down at the same level as me, rather than standing over my bedside, and just asked me how I was doing, and asked me to explain where I was at that moment in time. She didn't come with expectations. She came with just pure compassion and empathy from what I was going through.
mm,
Transpired later down the line that she was actually a peer worker and she herself had been through addiction, knew exactly what it was like to be where I was at, so knew how to approach that situation with the compassion and with the empathy that was really needed in that moment to show me that one, there was a way out, and two, someone did actually care if I did or did not survive. Compassion and kindness
mm,
is free, and in any profession, not just in a caring profession. I think in general, if you enter a conversation with someone and have a genuineness about you,
Mm,
then you're going to get much more from that conversation.
mm,
So my advice to professionals, especially within the industry of addiction or the care system and the NHS, is possibly to start with kind of open-ended questions.
mm,
So don't approach a patient or someone with a set of questions that look like a tick box exercise. Ask human questions, how are you feeling today and what brings you here today? Very open-ended questions. Now, don't expect someone to freely offload everything that they're going through at that time,
mm,
but it's very easy to dismiss what's really going on if you just have to answer specific questions, as in, how many units of alcohol do you drink? You can give an answer. Do you think you have a problem? Yes or no. So I would say, when you approach someone in addiction is to approach with curiosity instead of judgment, and I think you'll get a lot more honesty out of that person.
mm,
I think be flexible. Someone in active addiction, they can't always turn up at 9 a.m. on the dot, sit in a waiting room or navigate a really complicated like referral pathway service. It's too much for them to handle.
mm,
So what I ask of people is to meet that person where they are at. So with baby steps, asking them just to turn up maybe on a specific day at a time that suits them,
mm,
or do they require us to meet maybe somewhere less clinical? Like, shall we meet in a library or meet in a coffee shop or somewhere where it doesn't feel as judgmental maybe for them? Because for someone to
mm,
turn up on a designated day has taken a huge amount of courage for them to do that. So praise the fact that they have turned up.
mm,
Don't put these giant expectations on someone that has no idea what their life will look like once they are sober. So a
mm,
lot of people feel safe in the chaos that they're living in because that feels safer than the fear of what might be to come.
mm,
Recovery looks very different for each individual.
mm,
So the biggest thing I would say to those that are going through it is to not give up on yourself, even when you feel like you already have. Um, but for those people that are friends or family, is don't be afraid of approaching the topic. Um, not with aggression or frustration, but with genuine concern. So don't expect the person to give you the answer that you're probably wanting to hear, but dropping that seed within that conversation that you do care and obviously there is something going on
mm,
may allow room and space for that person to open up to you maybe a bit further down the line. Yeah, if you feel like there aren't any local services that are easy for you to reach out to, or anyone close to you that you might feel that might not understand where you're at, then feel free to reach out to me. Yeah, just DM me and I'll happily listen and be non-judgmental and hopefully be able to point you in the right direction.